Let's welcome in NewsNation political contributors A. Scott Bolden and Sean Spicer. Gentlemen, thank you both. I have to say, you have a lot of people excited about this segment. You two have become very popular when paired. So, Scott, I'm going to start with you. The president is maintaining that this will ultimately be good for our country. And we are seeing companies, I just spoke to somebody in Fort Wayne, Indiana, companies like GM announcing they are going to increase American production as a direct response to these tariffs. We've seen Sean Fain, the president of the United Auto Workers Union. He supports the tariffs. We see this better than expected jobs report. Scott, do you think much of this panic will die down and things will actually improve?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to the multitude of economists who say that this is going to drive us either into a recession or drive our economy down. Those job numbers will be a good cushion for going forward. But Sean and I both know that that report is looking backwards before the tariffs, even though we had some uncertainty with the tariffs. Now they're in place, and this administration says that's not changing. So show me those job numbers a month from now, 60 days from now. For the car industry, yeah, I think this is a good thing. I mean, NAFTA didn't work out well for them. I will concede that. At the same time, though, the economists say tariffs across the board at 20, 35% isn't going to work for our economy. You know, eggs are down, but we still have a high level of inflation. And remember, under the Biden administration, we had great economic numbers, but Americans weren't feeling it. Now Donald Trump wants them to experience some more pain. He says short term. I don't trust him. I wouldn't trust him with my checking account.
All right, Sean, over to you. I'd like to listen to some of what President Trump said yesterday before he was heading to Florida.
It's a big thing. I said this would exactly be the way it is. We have $6 or $7 trillion coming into our country, and we've never seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom. The stock is going to boom. The country is going to boom.
All right. So, Sean, some critics are saying it was tone deaf for President Trump to be heading to his Florida golf course yesterday when so much of the country, really the world, was in turmoil. Our markets were dropping. What is your response to that criticism, especially if, let's say, that were former President Biden who would do the same thing?
Look, here's what I would tell you. There's a big difference. President Trump, I've worked for him. I don't think anybody thinks, regardless of where he is, that he's not working, right? You will see the truths, the meetings, the stories. President Trump could be on the moon and he'd be working, right? The issue with Biden was, frankly, whether or not he was actually aware of what was going on, whether he was engaged. Full stop, whether he was at the beach in Delaware or at the White House. That's number one. Number two is, I just want to say something. First of all, I don't mean to disagree off the bat with Scott, but it's not up to economists to decide. It's up to all of us whether we want to do something tough. Two things that I think are important that I think Scott and I hopefully can agree on. Number one, when you look at the share of U.S. manufacturing, something that has been the backbone, frankly, of the Democratic Party, the workers in those factories across the country, those are the people who generally had voted Democrat for decades, right? In 2023, the United States had roughly 30% of the GDP, of the market share, manufacturing market share globally, right? China was down around 13%. That's inverse right now. We are down near 15%. They are almost at 30% worldwide. When you take the U.S., Japan, and Germany, the three other leading market share countries, manufacturing-wise, we don't now combine to equal what China does, okay? We are losing our manufacturing base in America, number one. Number two, look at this chart of tariffs that other countries charge us, right? China's average tariff, 67%, the EU, 39%, Vietnam, 90%, Taiwan, 64%, Japan, 46%, India, 52%, South Korea, 50%. Why is that fair? Why are our ranchers, farmers, manufacturers, and service providers not able to get market access into all these other countries, but they get unfettered access into the U.S. market? There is a point at which a U.S. president is finally standing up for our workers, and it's Donald Trump that's doing it. This used to be a position, by the way, that Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and everyone else on the Democratic Party championed. They'd say we needed fairness. The only reason there's opposition now is because it's Donald Trump that's doing it. I was there in the Rose Garden, Nicole. Yeah. It was Teamsters. It was UAW workers. It actually should have been a Biden rally and a Democratic rally, but it was Donald Trump bringing this coalition of American workers together for the first time in Republican politics that you would see something like that. But standing up for American workers is something that the Democrats used to pride themselves on.
Yeah, you know, and Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Hey, Sean, you know what, Sean? Let's stand up for Americans and the American workers and the auto workers. You got me. I'm there with you, right? It's not so much what Donald Trump has done. There are a lot of presidents that have stood up for the American worker. The way he's doing it, he is going to turn out to be hurting them regardless of what they want, because these across-the-board tariffs are going to cost American workers and everyone else more money. Now, there's a strategic way to do it. I would agree. Hold on. There's a strategic way to do it versus taking a sledgehammer to it. He could have done all this through trade negotiations. He could have done this not across the board, but in certain sections, because most Americans don't want increased prices. They want a reduction in inflation and a reduction in prices. This isn't the way to do it, at least based on my research and what a lot of economists say. And they're pretty smart guys who live in this economic world, if you will. How can you ignore them?
All right, so
because Scott, I was one of them. Hold on, Scott, I was one of them. I was the assistant U.S. trade rep for 3 years. We went to the WTO and filed tons of cases. We said we were standing up for American workers, and nothing changed. On a bipartisan basis going back decades, we've talked about trade adjustment assistance. That was something that your party championed, and nothing's worked. Right? Donald Trump's the first person. You may call it a sledgehammer. I call it a wake-up call to the rest of the world. You've been taking advantage of us for too long. Finally, a president standing up for us. But the bottom line is we've tried everything else before, and it hasn't worked. Other countries pay lip service to us, and over again, they screw us. We can't get into the markets. They get into ours. Donald Trump standing up for the American worker for the first time on a bipartisan basis in decades.
And hopefully, obviously, well, gentlemen, we want to be able to move on here, but obviously, we want America to win in all of this. So we do hope that it works out. Scott, I want to ask you now, because the way this is being done, there are certainly debates on both sides for how this is being carried out. I want to talk about the Democratic Party. We saw that record-breaking speech on the Senate floor earlier this week from Senator Cory Booker. Saw a big win in the Wisconsin State Supreme Court election, smaller margins with the losses in the Florida congressional races. But are the Democrats finally starting to find their footing after such, massive losses in November?
Well, there's a right way and a wrong way to do this and to fix this economy at America. It's not left or right. It's right or wrong. And Democrats just believe this is wrong with the DOGE cuts and with the shutting down of agencies, the courts intervening and what have you. Have they found their voice? They found a voice. There's several other mechanisms to be put in place that the Democrats who are not in power can do. But here's the bottom line, though. The Article III courts, the federal courts, have stopped this approach that Donald Trump has taken. Donald Trump has an unlimited appetite for risk. He certainly does, because he's overcome a lot and he got reelected. That being the case, I'm all for changing and making America better, but the way he does it, whether it's done legally, it should be done legally, not illegally, and the courts are telling us otherwise. So the Democrats have 2 years before they can get power back. This administration doesn't seem to care that there are elections coming up in 2 years. They believe that the people that elected them can take more pain in after telling us that the Biden economy caused pain. Now, Donald Trump wants to cause more pain and says you can withstand it for the greater good, if you will. We'll see politically, and we'll see in 2 years whether that's true or not. I doubt it.
We will see. I want to zoom out a little bit here, Sean, and let's look internationally, because we know that President Trump certainly likes to do things differently, domestically, abroad. There is this reporting now that the president could potentially be speaking again with Russia's President Vladimir Putin as early as today, possibly next week. Now, the Kremlin, though, is saying that that's not true, that it's not happening. We know the president has recently said he was, quote, pissed at Putin. What do you think this all means, for the war in Ukraine, the tenuous relationship between these two men, and just globally overall?
Yeah, real quick, and then I'll get to that. But, I drove carpool the other day. Gas prices are down. I haven't seen them this low in Alexandria in quite some time. Went to the market, you look at eggs. The American people are seeing the results of Donald Trump up close, right? Prices are down, and he's fighting for the American worker for the long term, because we're on an unsustainable path. China is an existential threat to the United States economically and militarily, and Donald Trump is bringing back manufacturing, whether it's Honda, Hyundai, SoftBank, Taiwan Semiconductors. Hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. investment is coming to the U.S., and I think that's going to pay massive dividends. When it comes to Russia, look, of course he's pissed. Donald Trump is a peacemaker that's trying to get a sustained, longing peace in Ukraine. He's probably the only person on earth that can pull this off, and I think he's trying to do what he can to get these parties to the table to do it. And I'd be pissed at Putin, too. I'm glad he's upset. I hope he puts more sanctions on Putin to get him back to the table, to get a lasting, sustained peace so that the destruction and the killing end.
All right, so this last question, before we run out of time here, I want to give you both a chance to answer this one. Scott, I'll start with you so we can end with Sean. The president, we know, fired.
Say it ain't so.
Well, no, because, Scott, I started with you,
gonna
so I have
end
to
with
end with
Sean.
Sean. The president fired, we know, the director and deputy director of the National Security Agency, along with other National Security Council members, after a meeting with the far-right activist Laura Loomer, who reportedly said they were disloyal. I would like to get the reaction from both of you. Scott, we'll start with you.
Well, I hope that report's not true. I hope this president and his advisors aren't taking information solely from Loomer. Nothing wrong with Loomer meeting with the president and sharing her views, but then is there empirical data or evidence to support what she's saying? I certainly don't believe even this president would do that. But here again, this president and his administration, the difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2 is he doesn't have anyone that has guardrails up against him. It's all about commitment and support to him, his personality, and are you in or out? And if you're leading people like that or you're making appointments like that, and we've seen that in this administration, they're not the most competent group, but they're the most loyal group. That's no way to run a country. That's no way to run America. And we're going to suffer from it unless we get lucky and they make smart decisions. And so I don't think Loomer is the sole source of that. I hope it isn't. But if it is, I wouldn't be surprised.
You know, and Sean, you know, on the flip side, arguably, you know, most leaders would say loyalty is important.
Yes. Look,
but
I'm with
competence
Scott
is
on this.
more
I don't know
important.
what
Competence.
I don't
Competence
know
is
what
more
was said.
important.
Touche. Go ahead, Sean.
Ready? Thank you. I don't know what was said in that, but I do think that the president has a right to have people around him that he feels that he can trust to give him the information that he wants. He went through it first term. I was there for part of it, where there were a lot of people who obfuscated, who were part of the resistance, and I think he wants to make sure that he's got people he trusts. I hope that the information that he was provided was part of a comprehensive decision that was evidence-based on who these people were. But at the end of the day, the president has a right to ensure that the people around him are people that he trusts, people that he has confidence in, the guidance that they give him. So, look, that's all I'll say that. And on a ending bipartisan note, I know Scott's in D.C., there was a poll that came out yesterday that said that Virginia is the #1 state in America that will survive an alien attack. And in a spirit of bipartisanship, I want to extend my arm out to Scott and say, if we are attacked by aliens, Scott, I welcome you here in Virginia to come survive the alien attack
Look
with
at that,
me and my
reaching
family.
across party lines. I love to see it. I really do think you two are becoming daytime's
you up on that.
favorite duo.
Thanks,
Sean
Scott.
Spicer,
Thanks.
Scott Bolden, thank you both. Have a great weekend.